Billy Blue, my knight in shining brindle. Welcome to another episode of A Poet Reads to Write. Today, I've got something really special for you. Well, it's really special for me. I am taking part in my first ever buddy read on BookTube, and I've been really excited about this now for, well, it feels like it's been going on for 2 or 3 months when I first had this proposal given to me. I am doing a buddy read with Daniela over there at Uncommon Reader, and oh, I love Daniela's channel. It is absolutely marvelous. Daniela, unlike me, is multilingual, and so she just moves so fluently, especially between English and Italian. But I think she speaks quite a few other European languages as well. Daniela is just amazing. We share many books in common, but not all. And she is a real sci-fi boffin, and I am more of your fantasy nerd. So Daniela proposed to me a few months ago, several months ago. She proposed a buddy read where I might recommend a work of fantasy for her, and she might in turn recommend a sci-fi book for me. Something that might let me just put my toes into the water and see how I go. So Daniela, you are just a miracle. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to explore the world of sci-fi. I'm in. This book that you can see Daniela recommended to me, Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. I loved it. I think this is one of the most enjoyable books I have read, well, certainly this year, in many years. This is an absolute hoot. It is a page-turner. By far, the major strength for this book, for me, the main strength of this book is its plot. It is a page-turner, and I love the way Andy Weir weaves in and out of this plot. All the scientific, all the technical detail that allows this world, this near-future world of the apocalypse, to actually take place. You know, the way he builds up all of this and weaves into the plot all of this scientific detail, some of it in quite a bit of detail. And I would have thought, you know, a real poetry nerd like me, I would have thought this would be a book I might really struggle with. You know, it is a little bit at times like reading a physics or extreme, you know, microbiology type textbook. But I loved it. The way Andy Weir engages and brings in all the scientific technical detail, even of rockets, believe it or not. For me, I had a ball. I had, to not put too fine a point on it, I had a blast reading this incredible story about intergalactic, apocalyptic, near-future story. I just had a blast reading it. It was such a great time. Marvelous. So Daniela, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Let's get down to some of the nuts and bolts of the whole thing though. Because is it a perfect book? No, but what book is? All right. Andy Weir, Project Hail Mary. When the book first came, you can see I decided to spend up a little bit and get a lovely hardback edition that opens beautifully in the hand. It's also written on really nice, printed on really nice paper. So I'm really pleased with the edition I bought. I think it's got a lovely cover. And the title, Project Hail Mary. The first thing that really got me going was the title. So rich in allusion. And you know, it does have a real lightness of touch too, doesn't it? You know, I think it's a beautiful title. So rich in allusion, real comic, or at least a lightness of touch. I just loved it. So when I first got the book, I looked at the title, the cover, I was on board. I thought, wow, this is going to be terrific. And then we open up the pages. Project Hail Mary, everything's going good. Project Hail Mary, a novel by Andy Weir, everything's going good for me. Then I turn over the page to the dedication for John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Oh, yuck! I really hate the Beatles. I don't mind the Beatles being out there in the world. I don't mind them being popular and all, whatever they are now, multi-billionaires. It's fine. But pop music is not for me. And for me, it is a real turnoff. So when I came to the dedication and saw this, oh my goodness, I had the alarm bells ringing. This particular intergalactic rocket space journey, I thought I was going to be out the back door pretty quickly if I was going to have to be listening to anything by the Beatles. I just find the repetitive rhythms, the repetitive lyrics, it's irritating, that heavy-handed use of rhyme, their inability to finish a song, it's just that mechanical fade out, the way every pop song ends, it irritates me. As I said, I know I'm, the odd person out here. I don't mind pop music being out there. I don't mind it being popular. It's fine. It's what everyone likes to listen to. But it's not what I like to listen to. So yes, when I read the dedication, I had the alarm bells ringing. Plus, 4 out of 4 men. It's already written by a man. I knew the central character of the story was a man. And then the dedication, 4 out of 4 men. My alarm bells are starting to ring. It's becoming a bit like a boy's own adventure. And then the next page, you get all these diagrams of rockets. And again, I'm out the back door. I have never, even as a little boy, I never went through a car phase. I never went through a machinery or a mechanical stage. I don't have an engineering type bone in my body. I am very impractical and I just have no interest in it at all. I love my dad to bits, but I have a problematic, complicated relationship with my dad. He's softened a lot as he's got older and I love him to bits. He's a beautiful, beautiful Christian evangelical person. He's a real naive, simple Christian person who's really full on for God, but he's also very, very quiet and very loving in his love for God. But Dad is an upholsterer by trade, and he always wanted that for me. He was always trying to woo me into the workshop to try and teach me the trade. He really wanted his own apprentice son. And I really disappointed. I had this difficult relationship with Dad. Our love was always quite a hard love. He was, particularly young days, quite a taskmaster, a real disciplinarian. He certainly came from that book, in the Hebrew Bible, Proverbs, don't spare the rod. So I think my dealings, my relationship with Dad in the workshop was always going to be difficult. And it was not something I was drawn to at all. I always wanted to be outside playing games, running around like a loony. And then as I got a little bit older as a teenager, when I discovered books, I knew upholstery and anything mechanical, anything practical. It was not for me. My future was going to be bookish and outdoors, little Mr. Outdoor Ed person. So when I came across this with all the rockets, oh my goodness, the alarm bells, they're ringing again. So when I got to the beginning of this story, I really was out the back door. I had pretty much made up my mind that this book was not going to be for me. But I am so pleased that I gave it a go. I had Daniela sitting there urging me on, encouraging me, and I trusted Daniela's judgment as well. She always said that she thought if any sci-fi book would be something I would be able to negotiate my way through, it might be this one. Because in many ways, it is sci-fi and it has lots of technical scientific detail, not only of rockets, bit of microbiology, and there's a lot of physics in the book as well. You know, the physics of spacecraft and the way we experience time dilation, all sorts of things. So there was a lot going on here, but Daniela was absolutely right. This book is an absolute hoot. I loved it. The plot is brilliant. But I did find, I'm sorry, Daniela, I loved the story and it was a page turner. I couldn't help but read it, and I've now read the book twice. I just had a ball reading it, and I think I probably loved it more the second time than the first time, believe it or not, even though, you know, I knew how it was all going to end. So that page turning capacity that the plot has is not only reliant on, you know, what is going to happen next, just trying to find out what the resolutions to all these complications are, because the plot does have many twists and turns. There are many complications. But I loved the story the second time just as much, as I said, if not more than the first time. So the beauty of the plot isn't only reliant on trying to find out what is going to happen next. It is a far richer story than just that. But the characters, they're all perfectly good people. I liked all of them. I was certainly, you know, barracking for the main character. You know, I wanted him to be successful and save the world. Not only because I would be saved and my, you know, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, but I really liked him. I wanted him to be successful. I was barracking for him, definitely. But, oh my goodness, Ryland Grace, he is a Boy Scout, isn't he? You know, he's a male, an adult male, working his way through the world. And we're meant to believe that this male just doesn't swear at all, for example. You know, he is such a Boy Scout. Andy Weir has said in interviews that he put him as a junior high science teacher. So he believed that this young Ryland Grace would have taught himself not to swear because he was a teacher. And he always had this persona, this mask of the teacher on. Andy Weir, let me tell you, you have never met a teacher. You don't know any teachers. I have worked with teachers all my life. And yes, we learn not to swear in the classroom. But my goodness, if you have any social interactions, any engagements with teachers outside of the classroom, you know that they're the heaviest swearing troupe of profession probably anywhere in the world. You know, they're dealing with kids, with teenagers all the time, and they're always dealing with very complicated emotional things. Teachers swear. It's their way of dealing with the emotional stress of working with teenagers all day long. Let me put it to you that way, Andy Weir. Teachers swear like wild troopers. So I found, you know, this was just symptomatic of, he was such a Boy Scout, Ryland Grace. And Andy Weir was so determined to make him the unlooked for, the most unremarkable person. You know, it's a trope, isn't it? A trope of sci-fi, of fantasy, that the hero, you know, like Bilbo Baggins, like Frodo Baggins, you know, they have to be the hero that everybody else would have overlooked, neglected. You know, they have to be the common person. And it's such a trope. And Andy Weir, I think, again, has done too much work to try and make him the unlikely hero. And he doesn't even want to go on the mission. He doesn't want to sacrifice his life for the good of the world anyway at the beginning. He has to be literally press-ganged or forced on board the Hail Mary. And I found all of that, to be honest, a little bit unbelievable. He's such a Boy Scout. If I ever hear an adult person say golly or gosh or dang it ever again, I think I will just rip my ears out of my head. So to do with the, you know, aligned with the sort of weakish characterization in the book, I did find a lot of the dialogue in the book also quite stilted and not very believable, I'm sorry. So the characterization was not really strong. I found nearly all of the characters were types. You know, when he goes into space on the Hail Mary, there's the Chinese astronaut and the Russian astronaut, and they are all a little bit typish. You know, the way we often stereotype Russians and Chinese people. And there's a one woman in the book too who is actually, an important character. She's given, in a sense, unlimited power to solve the coming apocalypse for the earth. And her name is Eva Stratt. I don't know whether that was meant to be a bit of a play on the word Pratt. She is given unlimited power, and so she has to be very bossy, very bureaucratic. She has to get the job done, and it has to be done now. And I get all of that, but because she has to be this very stern, take no prisoners bureaucrat, Andy Weir just puts her as female because it's so easy to stereotype again a female as bossy. And of course, she has to therefore also be a Dutch female, because the Dutch are known as being, particularly in terms of that stereotypical way of looking at race, they're known as being a very bossy sort of people, that Germanic line. So Eva Pratt, the characters are types. I can buy into them on one level, and I am really rooting for Ryland Grace the whole way through. It's a bit cliche too that his name is Grace and that he's going to bring this grace on the whole world. I think the use of the name there is a little bit obvious, but the characters are types. The dialogue is a bit stilted and not always believable, I found it. As I said, all those golly goshes, all of those dang its, oh my goodness. The dialogue is quite appalling at times. But as you get more and more into the story and you're just being swept along by this page-turning hoot of a book, you do buy into it, and I did really, really love it. It's interesting, reading reviews of this book. Some reviewers have criticized the book for being a little bit like sort of cooperation porn, that everyone is so able in the world of this book to bring out the best in humanity, to be selfless, to be wanting the best for other people. And even though there is some conflict and there is some bad stuff going on, and not all the characters are good, I guess, but ultimately it is a book that really revels in cooperation. Not only cooperation between races, between nations to solve this coming apocalyptic problem, but also, of course, cooperation between aliens as Ryland Grace goes into this space odyssey and meets alien life forms as well. And they just immediately slip into all of these tropes of cooperation, putting the other first, risking their life for everybody else. So I know some book reviewers have criticized this book a little bit for being a cooperation porn. And it does fit in, I suppose, with that thing that, this really is a book that is about being a page-turning hoot, which also makes me a little bit nervous, Does Andy Weir, in this world of contemporary America and book banning, is it one part, an enemy for not wanting to be on any of these book banning lists so that they get more sales? And of course, as we already know with this book and with his previous book, The Martian, the book has already been sold and being made into a very popular feature-length film. So I worry a little bit that some of these decisions about characterization and the way characters talk, is there always one ear for not appearing on book banning lists and for the movie rights? It does worry me, to be honest. Having said that, if you can park all of that to one side, this is an absolute hoot. It is such a joy to read. You are barracking for Ryland Grace the whole way through. And my goodness, I won't give any spoilers. I won't do anything other than to say the one alien, the main alien life form that he meets, that they enter into this incredible cooperative relationship and both risk, their life for the other at various times throughout the novel. Oh my goodness. That character, Rocky, named Rocky, is an absolute fantastic character. They are, for me, they're my money, the best character in the book. I just wanted more and more of Rocky. The way Andy Weir describes this alien life form, brings this life form to life, and they've evolved under completely different intergalactic conditions. So of course their body looks completely different. The way they think is different. It's remarkable. I think it's a remarkable achievement. Again, the way Rocky talks brings me back to this problem that Andy Weir has in writing dialogue. Because Rocky, the alien, he is described as having this unbelievable brain that can do incredibly. These people haven't invented computers, because they don't need artificial intelligence to think about the world. They just have such advanced brains for thinking mathematically about problems. They can just solve anything. And a life form that is so advanced with problem-solving ways of thinking, they would have handled the learning of English grammar pretty quickly. And once, Ryland Grace learns a little bit of their language, and once Rocky learns English, he would do more than just learn vocabulary. At the beginning, you would expect the grammar to be quite stilted as he's finding his way into English and communicating with Ryland Grace. But really, Andy Weir, this life form, Rocky, he would have mastered the grammar pretty darn quickly. And the vocabulary, we should have seen some growth in his use of English grammar. He wouldn't have just learnt vocabulary and then this really stilted, quite silly, juvenile grammar. We should have seen some real growth in the command of grammar as Rocky has more and more verbal exchanges with Ryland Grace. And again, there is nothing there at all. From page 1, when Rocky first starts to learn some English vocabulary and starts to have these interactions with Ryland, there's no development or growth in the use of grammar at all to use the vocabulary that he's learnt to make more sophisticated sentences and to have his communication, his interaction with Ryland happen on a far more advanced level. That's an example, I think, of the way Andy Weir does, for my money at least, he does struggle a bit with his characterization and with his command to write dialogue. There should have been some real growth in Rocky's ability to use the English language and have verbal interactions with Ryland Grace. And for my money, that doesn't happen anywhere near enough. So this is an absolutely wonderful novel. Daniela, you are just, oh my goodness, I am so appreciative that you have brought this book into my life. I love it. I had a ball reading it. You are just such a fantastic person. I love your channel. If you haven't given Daniela over there at Uncommon Reader a go, subscribe. You will absolutely have a ball. Daniela does a lot more, work on sci-fi novels, popular fiction, thrillers, mysteries, crime, all sorts of things that I don't often do. I'm trying to do a lot more of. So I'm so pleased that Daniela has got me into this, and I have some plans for future sci-fi book readings and reviews. Daniela, you've got me. Not only is this a fantastic book, but I am really keen to read more sci-fi. This is an absolute hoot. I could not recommend it enough. This is one of the best things, one of the most enjoyable books I've read probably in the last decade. I had an absolute blast reading it. If you haven't read this yet, and probably most of you have, but if you haven't, give it a go. It's a page-turning hoot. Daniela, you are such a miracle for bringing this book into my life. But is it a perfect book? No. But what is? But if you give this book a go, I think you will have a page-turning hoot of a time. This is a blast. Thank you, and bye for now.